The morning sun cast long shadows across the palace courtyard as Captain James Morrison adjusted his ceremonial sword. 23 years of service had taught him to read the subtle signs that preceded trouble. Today felt different. The usual chatter among the kitchen staff was hushed, and even the palace cats seemed to avoid certain corridors. Princess Charlotte, now 16, had grown into a spirited young woman who possessed her grandmother's sharp wit and her father's stubborn determination. Unlike many royals her age, she preferred spending her mornings in the palace library rather than planning elaborate social gatherings. This particular Tuesday found her buried deep in a historical account of medieval trade routes, completely unaware that her very existence had become the center of a dangerous political scheme. Lord Reginald Ashworth, the Queen Consort's younger brother, had spent months carefully positioning himself within the palace hierarchy. His charm and apparent loyalty had earned him access to private royal meetings and sensitive information about the succession line. What the royal family didn't know was that Reginald had been secretly meeting with foreign representatives who promised substantial financial backing for his ambitious plans. The conspiracy had been brewing since Princess Charlotte's 15th birthday, when Parliament had formally recognized her position in the line of succession. Certain political factions viewed her future reign as a threat to their established power structures. They needed someone more malleable, someone who would serve their interests rather than those of the common people. Reginald had convinced them that he could provide exactly what they wanted. Captain Morrison had noticed unusual patterns in the palace's visitor logs over the past month. Several individuals with questionable backgrounds had been granted access under the pretense of cultural exchanges or business meetings. His military instincts told him that these coincidences weren't random, but he needed concrete evidence before raising alarms that could damage innocent reputations. The palace's head of security, Colonel Sarah Bennett, shared Morrison's concerns. She had been tracking suspicious financial transactions linked to several palace staff members. Large sums of money were changing hands, but the sources remained mysterious. When she attempted to investigate further, she discovered that many of the relevant records had been mysteriously misplaced or destroyed. Princess Charlotte's daily routine had become predictable, which made her vulnerable. Every Tuesday at 10 in the morning, she would walk from her private chambers through the East Wing corridor to reach the library. This path took her past several secluded alcoves and through areas where security coverage was minimal. Lord Reginald had been carefully mapping this route, timing her movements, and identifying potential ambush points. The foreign agents working with Reginald had provided him with a sophisticated plan. They didn't want to harm Princess Charlotte physically, as that would create too much international attention. Instead, they planned to stage a kidnapping that would appear to be the work of domestic terrorists. During her captivity, they would force her to renounce her claim to the throne in favor of a more suitable candidate whom they could control. Captain Morrison's unease reached its peak when he overheard a fragment of conversation between Lord Reginald and an unknown visitor. The words, "Tuesday morning" and "library corridor" were enough to set off every alarm bell in his experienced mind. He immediately began adjusting the security protocols without alerting anyone to his specific concerns. The palace's surveillance system had several blind spots that had never been addressed due to budget constraints and political complications. Lord Reginald had identified these weaknesses and planned to exploit them. His accomplices would enter through a service entrance that was only lightly monitored during the morning shift change. The timing had to be perfect. Princess Charlotte remained blissfully unaware of the danger surrounding her. She had been looking forward to this particular Tuesday because the royal librarian had promised to show her some recently acquired manuscripts about early female rulers. Her enthusiasm for learning about strong women in history would soon become ironically relevant to her own situation. The Queen Consort, Lady Margaret, had unwittingly provided her brother with inside information about Charlotte's schedule and preferences. She trusted Reginald completely and saw no harm in sharing family details during their regular conversations. This trust would soon become a weapon used against the very family she was trying to protect. Captain Morrison spent Monday night reviewing palace blueprints and security protocols. His years of military service had taught him that the best defense often required thinking like an attacker. If he were planning to target Princess Charlotte, Tuesday morning's library walk would be the perfect opportunity. He decided to increase security along that route without making his actions obvious. The foreign conspirators had invested significant resources in this operation. They had been planning similar moves in other European kingdoms, viewing the current political climate as ideal for reshaping the continent's royal hierarchies. Princess Charlotte's kingdom was just the beginning of a much larger scheme that could alter the balance of power for generations. Lord Reginald's motivation wasn't purely financial. He had always resented his sister's marriage into the royal family and felt that his own noble lineage deserved greater recognition. The conspirators had promised him a significant role in the new government structure they planned to establish. His ambition had blinded him to the consequences of betraying his own family. As Tuesday morning approached, Captain Morrison made a decision that would change everything. He would personally escort Princess Charlotte to the library, breaking from the usual protocol that assigned this duty to junior guards. This change would put him in the right place at the right time to prevent a catastrophe that could have destroyed the monarchy itself. Tuesday morning arrived with an unusual stillness that made Captain Morrison's nerves tingle with anticipation. At precisely 9:45, he positioned himself outside Princess Charlotte's chambers, earlier than the scheduled escort time. His decision to break protocol had puzzled the other guards, but his authority wasn't questioned. What they didn't know was that he had spent the early morning hours strategically positioning additional security throughout the East Wing. Princess Charlotte emerged from her chambers carrying a leather satchel filled with notebooks and sketching materials. She planned to document the manuscript illustrations she would examine in the library. Her bright smile and cheerful greeting gave no indication that she sensed anything amiss. Captain Morrison's calm demeanor helped maintain the illusion of a normal day, though his eyes continuously scanned their surroundings for potential threats. The walk through the palace corridors began without incident. Princess Charlotte chatted enthusiastically about the historical documents she hoped to study, while Captain Morrison listened with genuine interest while maintaining his vigilant watch. They passed through the main hallway where portraits of her ancestors gazed down from gilded frames, each one a reminder of the responsibility she would one day inherit. Meanwhile, Lord Reginald was making final preparations in a small chamber near the East Wing. 3 men dressed as maintenance workers waited for his signal. These weren't palace employees, but foreign operatives who had infiltrated the building using forged credentials that Reginald had helped them obtain. Each carried concealed weapons and communication devices that would coordinate their movements with external support teams. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. When Princess Charlotte reached the narrow corridor leading to the library, the fake maintenance workers would create a distraction by triggering a minor electrical problem that would temporarily disable the lighting. In the confusion, they would overwhelm her escort and spirit her away through a service passage that led to a waiting vehicle outside the palace grounds. Captain Morrison noticed the first sign of trouble when they approached the East Wing entrance. The usual morning sounds of palace activity seemed muted, and he spotted a maintenance cart positioned in an unusual location. His military training had taught him that successful ambushes often relied on seemingly innocent props that provided cover and concealment for attackers. The cart's placement immediately raised red flags. As they entered the East Wing corridor, Princess Charlotte continued her animated discussion about medieval manuscripts, completely absorbed in her scholarly enthusiasm. Captain Morrison's responses became more measured as his attention focused on environmental details. He noticed that several light fixtures appeared to have been recently accessed, and scuff marks on the floor suggested recent heavy foot traffic in areas that were normally pristine. The attack came with sudden violence that shattered the morning's peaceful atmosphere. The corridor lights failed simultaneously, plunging them into near darkness broken only by emergency lighting that cast eerie shadows on the ornate walls. Princess Charlotte's startled cry echoed through the passage as three figures emerged from concealed positions with military precision. Captain Morrison's reaction was instantaneous and decisive. Years of combat training kicked in as he pushed Princess Charlotte behind a marble pillar while drawing his service weapon. The attackers had expected to overwhelm a single guard escorting an unsuspecting royal, but they found themselves facing a prepared and experienced soldier who had anticipated their arrival. The first attacker lunged forward with a taser intended to incapacitate the captain quickly and quietly. Morrison sidestepped the attack and delivered a devastating blow to the man's solar plexus that dropped him immediately. The element of surprise had shifted dramatically, and the remaining attackers found themselves in a fight they hadn't prepared for. Princess Charlotte pressed herself against the marble pillar, her scholarly excitement replaced by terror, as she witnessed violence erupting around her. The sound of struggling men and Captain Morrison's sharp commands created a chaotic symphony that seemed impossible in the normally serene palace environment. She clutched her leather satchel as if it could provide protection against forces she didn't understand. The second attacker attempted to circle around and grab Princess Charlotte while Morrison dealt with his partner. This tactical error proved fatal to their mission's success. Morrison had positioned himself to maintain visual contact with the princess while engaging multiple threats. His combat experience allowed him to track both attackers simultaneously, something they hadn't anticipated. A vicious hand-to-hand combat ensued in the darkened corridor. Morrison's formal dress uniform restricted his movement slightly, but his superior training and motivation gave him significant advantages. He was fighting not just for his own survival, but for the safety of someone he had sworn to protect. The attackers were skilled, but had underestimated both his abilities and his determination. The third attacker tried to use Princess Charlotte as leverage, shouting demands that Morrison stand down. This proved to be another miscalculation. Morrison had faced similar situations during his military service and knew that negotiating with hostage-takers usually led to worse outcomes. Instead, he used the man's focus on Charlotte to launch a surprise counterattack that left the would-be kidnapper unconscious on the marble floor. Lord Reginald waited in his observation post, expecting to receive confirmation that the operation had succeeded. When no signal came, he began to realize that his carefully constructed plan was falling apart. The foreign operatives had assured him that 3 trained agents could easily handle 1 palace guard and a teenage girl. Their confidence was proving to be dangerously misplaced. Palace security alarms began wailing throughout the building as Captain Morrison activated emergency protocols using his communication device. Guards from every section converged on the East Wing, while Colonel Bennett coordinated a systematic lockdown that would prevent any conspirators from escaping. The hunt for the mastermind behind the attack was about to begin. Princess Charlotte emerged from her hiding place to find Captain Morrison standing over 3 unconscious attackers, breathing heavily but uninjured. The contrast between his formal uniform and the violence he had just displayed was jarring, but she felt nothing but gratitude for his protection. She had witnessed firsthand the dedication of those sworn to serve her family. The aftermath of the failed kidnapping attempt would trigger a comprehensive investigation that would expose the full extent of Lord Reginald's conspiracy. Foreign agents throughout the kingdom would be identified and arrested, while political reforms would strengthen security protocols around all royal family members. The attack had failed, but its consequences would reshape palace life forever. The palace corridors filled with armed guards within minutes of Captain Morrison's emergency alert. Colonel Bennett arrived at the scene to find 3 unconscious attackers secured with improvised restraints and Princess Charlotte sitting calmly on an antique chair, still clutching her leather satchel. The contrast between her composed demeanor and the evidence of violent struggle surrounding her demonstrated remarkable resilience for someone her age. Emergency medical teams quickly attended to the unconscious attackers while forensic specialists began documenting evidence that would prove crucial in the investigation. Each man carried forged identification documents and sophisticated communication equipment that clearly indicated foreign involvement. The level of planning and resources invested in this operation suggested a conspiracy that extended far beyond a simple kidnapping attempt. Princess Charlotte provided a detailed account of events to Colonel Bennett, while Captain Morrison underwent medical examination for minor injuries sustained during the fight. Her observation skills, sharpened by years of academic study, allowed her to provide valuable details about the attackers' coordination and equipment that would help investigators understand the scope of the conspiracy they were dealing with. Lord Reginald realized that his position had become untenable when palace guards began conducting systematic searches throughout the building. His communication with the foreign operatives had been monitored by palace intelligence systems he didn't know existed. Every message, every meeting, and every financial transaction had been quietly documented as evidence of his treacherous activities. The interrogation of the captured attackers revealed a complex network of foreign agents operating throughout the kingdom. Under pressure, they provided information about safe houses, communication methods, and financial channels that had supported their operation. This intelligence would lead to arrests across multiple countries and expose similar plots targeting other European royal families. Captain Morrison's heroic actions earned him immediate recognition from the royal family and recommendations for the highest honors available to palace security personnel. However, the man himself seemed more concerned with identifying potential weaknesses in palace security protocols than with accepting praise for his service. His dedication to continuous improvement would drive significant reforms in royal protection methods. Princess Charlotte's perspective on her royal responsibilities underwent a profound transformation following the attack. The abstract concept of political enemies had become a concrete reality that she would need to navigate throughout her life. She began requesting additional training in security awareness and self-defense, determined to become a more active participant in her own protection. The investigation into Lord Reginald's activities revealed years of gradual infiltration and information gathering that had compromised palace security in ways nobody had imagined. His access to family schedules, security protocols, and personal information had provided foreign agents with detailed intelligence about royal vulnerabilities. The betrayal cut particularly deep because of the trust the royal family had placed in him. Queen Consort. Lady Margaret struggled with overwhelming guilt when she learned how her innocent conversations with her brother had been weaponized against Princess Charlotte. The close relationship she had maintained with Reginald throughout their lives made his betrayal especially painful. She would spend months in therapy learning to cope with the knowledge that her trust had nearly cost her stepdaughter's life. The foreign governments involved in the conspiracy faced severe diplomatic consequences when their involvement became public. International treaties were reconsidered, trade relationships were suspended, and intelligence sharing agreements were terminated. The attempted kidnapping of Princess Charlotte had created ripple effects that would influence European politics for years to come. Lord Reginald was arrested in his private chambers while attempting to destroy evidence of his criminal activities. Documents found in his possession revealed the full scope of the conspiracy, including plans to target other members of the royal family if the initial operation had succeeded. His arrest marked the end of a threat that could have destabilized the entire monarchy. The trial that followed became a sensation in international media, with details of the conspiracy exposing the vulnerability of royal families across Europe. Expert witnesses testified about foreign interference in domestic politics and the methods used to recruit trusted insiders for treacherous purposes. The evidence presented would influence security protocols in palaces throughout the continent. Princess Charlotte testified during the trial with a maturity that impressed legal observers and demonstrated her readiness for future leadership responsibilities. Her clear recollection of events and thoughtful analysis of the attack's implications showed that she understood both the personal and political significance of what had happened to her. Her testimony helped secure convictions for all conspirators involved. Captain Morrison received the Royal Medal of Courage in a ceremony attended by international dignitaries who recognized the broader significance of his actions. His prevention of Princess Charlotte's kidnapping had disrupted a conspiracy that could have altered the political landscape of Europe. The ceremony also announced his promotion to Chief of Royal Security, a position he would use to implement comprehensive reforms. The palace underwent extensive security upgrades following the investigation's conclusions. New surveillance systems eliminated blind spots that had been exploited by the conspirators, while improved background screening procedures prevented future infiltration by hostile agents. Staff training programs were expanded to help employees recognize and report suspicious activities. Princess Charlotte's education was enhanced with courses in political science, international relations, and security studies that would prepare her for the complex challenges facing modern monarchies. Her experience with the kidnapping attempt had provided practical lessons that couldn't be learned from textbooks, giving her unique insights into the realities of royal life. The relationship between Princess Charlotte and Captain Morrison evolved into one of mutual respect and professional collaboration. She valued his expertise and dedication, while he admired her courage and intelligence. Their shared experience during the attack created a bond that would influence palace security protocols and royal family relationships for generations. Years later, historians would recognize the failed kidnapping attempt as a turning point in royal security practices. The lessons learned from Lord Reginald's conspiracy led to international cooperation agreements that helped prevent similar attacks on royal families worldwide. Captain Morrison's heroic actions had protected more than just Princess Charlotte. They had preserved the stability of democratic monarchies across Europe. The legacy of that terrifying Tuesday morning would continue to influence palace life long after the conspirators had been forgotten. Princess Charlotte would eventually become a queen, known for her strong security consciousness and international cooperation in protecting democratic institutions. The guard who saved her life would be remembered as the man who helped preserve the future of constitutional monarchy itself.